Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining today's Comics Plus training. I'm Joanna Goldfarb, the Youth Services and Sustainability Innovation Consultant here at RCLS. I am happy to introduce Patrick Deering, who is the Library Services Consultant at BroadArt. And Patrick is going to walk us through Comics Plus and everything that you will need to know to help your patrons with this new service. Patrick, take it away.
Thank you very much. I will do my best to tell you everything you need to know, but I'll at least give a good dent into it. So what we are going to start with is everything I'm going to be sharing with you is going to focus on the patron experience, really to talk about what you might expect, what kind of questions may come up. But as I go through it, I will actually show the demo of the site as well. I think you'll find it's a pretty intuitive and self-explanatory site. And I encourage all of you to create a login. If you have not already done so, create a login and just kind of start pointing and clicking, and you will find yourself pretty simple to get through. So I'm going to share my screen. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to show you, there's two ways to experience Comics Plus. Comics Plus is available through an online URL. And so that's where I'm going to start. But I'm primarily showing it through this way because it's a little bit easier for me to manipulate showing in a Zoom. I am also going to show the app. The app is probably where you're going to have the most activity and where you're really going to want to encourage your users to download the app and utilize it there. There is nothing wrong with using it through the online URL that I'm showing you here. It's just not as glitzy of an interface, and it's really designed more for the school interface where they're using it on school computers. So it is available. I will walk you through the whole thing, but I'm also going to show the app, and I encourage you to become familiar with, if you have to pick one or the other, become familiar with the app. So we're starting with Library Pass. You are given the URL, what you will be promoting. When your patrons find it through the online, this is the page they're going to start with a little explanation. It's going to show a lot of the branding is going to tie to the term Library Pass. It does seem a little confusing in the beginning, and so we do want to spend a little bit of time explaining this. Comics Plus is the product that you will be using. Library Pass is somewhat the umbrella system that Comics Plus falls under. If somebody goes into their app store to look for Comics Plus, they will automatically be given the Library Pass app. But if somebody's really questioning it or they notice that there's a change, we do have some of the branding does show both names so that we don't confuse your patrons, but that might be one of the questions you get as it's starting to launch. So like, oh, I was looking for Comics Plus, but the only thing I could find was Library Pass. They are one and the same. So when you get to this page, the very first thing, it pretty much walks you through what you will need to know, because this is a product that has been purchased through your consortium. Your patrons will need to be trained that they cannot look for your individual library. They do have to look for the system name. So we have you listed as Ramapo Catskill Library System, New York. There is currently a glitch, which I became aware of yesterday preparing for this. This first link is not supposed to be here. This is an internal link that was never supposed to be broadcast. So I've already submitted a ticket for that to be suppressed. If somebody were to click on this, it's just going to spin and spin and spin. It's not going to do anything. So we are aware of that. We will fix it. It's unfortunate that as it's launching that's there. But again, we do so much through the app. This problem doesn't exist on the app, so we hadn't even noticed. But your patrons will have the option of clicking between two different systems. We set it up this way for a little bit of, for lack of a better term, parental control, in the sense that if you have a child wants to access children's content, they will have the opportunity of picking the children's library content, which is everything up to middle school. So this does not even include YA. So this truly gets you the younger content. However, if you're not a child, you don't have children, you don't have any issue, you can get the full library that includes all of children. So full library is everything. Children's library is just the subset. So this would be the link. And again, RCLS has sent out these links for you to promote on your own websites. If you want to put a link on the children's section of your website, this would be the one you would want to be linking to, because that would promote to the children's content. When they get in there, there's no way, if they follow this link, there is no way that they would have access to any of the adult content. But it is not a true parental control, because if that child happens to go onto the regular website and sees the full link, well, they're going to get access to it. So we're trying to give you as much control as possible. You do have these two options. I'm just going to start. Most people will want access to the full library, so you'll just click that. The minute you click into it, let me get rid of my default information. This is what your patrons will see right off the bat. They need to enter their library card number and give their PIN. That is it. Once they have done that, they will log in and they will have immediate access to the system. They don't have to do anything else. They do not have to come into your library. This is a complete remote experience. So you can promote this in a newsletter, anything you want. Once they find the site, either here or on the app, they have access to it. I am not a patron of your system. I live in Chicago, so I will be doing a separate login. So don't look at the man behind the curtain as I change all of this, because I'm going to be logging in under the BroadArt trial for the demo. It's the exact same collection. So everything you are seeing here is exactly what your patrons will see when they log in. The only difference is in the upper left-hand corner, mine says BroadArt trial, yours will say RCLS. So it is still branded for your system. Again, a repeat of the branding. It's a Comics Plus product under the Library Pass umbrella. We put both names here on purpose so that as people are exploring, they get used to the idea, they might see both. In some of the promotional materials, the free promotional materials you have access to promote, it actually says Comics Plus powered by Library Pass, to again reiterate that. If somebody were to access the URL from their phone, you can see there's an option right here to go straight to the App Store. There's no question they'll get exactly what they need, no worries. But for the URL experience, this is what they will see. As it loads, you have these moving banners. Everything about Comics Plus is about discoverability. Depending on how much background information you were given, or if you'd heard any additional information, Comics Plus contains over 20,000 titles, and they are all a completely unlimited simultaneous access model. So every single patron in your library system could access A Man's Skin, all downloaded at the same time. They could all be reading at the same time. There's no holds, there's no limits, and the patrons have no limits of how many titles they can access at once. So it's a really user-friendly experience because they don't experience any holds. And for really power users, they're not going to have any caps of how many titles they can check out. We have a ton of manga content. We have over 4,000 titles of manga. So you've got those manga heavy duty users that just devour everything you have available. Set them loose on this, they're going to be busy for a really long time. And they're going to have access to content they can't even get in print here in the United States. So it's going to be a great experience for them. So it's all about discoverability. So if somebody comes in and they don't know all of these things, well, let's judge a book by a cover and look at the pretty pictures. So you've got the changing banner. All of these banners are controlled within the Comics Plus side. This is not something you edit on your own. So we are always just going to be rotating out the content so you see new titles. They're also creating shelves, which is what all of these just marketing tools that are created within the page. So these are some recent additions. We're doing a lot of new publisher contracts to bring in new content. So we're bringing in all these new titles. Each one of these shelves, again, is controlled by the Library Pass Comics Plus team, but they will try and pull things that are relevant to the time. September 15th started Hispanic Heritage Month. So you've got some Latinx titles on this shelf, some additional Latinx titles. As they go, you can see it's loading. There will be dozens and dozens of shelves that you'll be able to load. And so people can just kind of scroll through and find a picture they think they're interested in. For people that might be more familiar with comics, they can manipulate some of these additional areas. All of these are also available on the app. It's just harder to manipulate trying to show in a demo. So I'm just showing you here on the URL. So you can click on popular. That is going to show popular content across the product across Comics Plus, not just across Ramapo. So just keep that in mind. So you might see content saying, well, why is this popular? Well, because maybe there's another area of the country that it is popular, and you'll have, you're just pulling popular titles across the system, not your library system. So you've got popular titles. For heavy duty users of the system, they will get used and love the idea of the just added column, because this is going to be content that literally, as we sign the contracts, as we get updates to the metadata, as we get new content, it's going to be dropped in here. So if they're popping into the site, once or twice a week, they can come in here and see, well, what's come in since the last time I joined, and they'll have all the content available there. Probably the most popular way to manipulate, other than just kind of scrolling and clicking, is in the categories, because again, assuming they have some experience with comics, manga, graphic novels, they're probably going to have some area that they like. Again, one of them being manga. So they can kind of scroll through here, click any one of the categories, and they will find dozens, hundreds, thousands of titles that are available to them. Less popular, but will be a very nice refinement for any users that are, again, heavy users of comics and are really familiar with the industry. You can actually also hunt by publisher. And so a lot of the publishers like Kodansha just does manga. So you can actually, Dark Horse is a popular comics. You will have patrons that will just recognize that and say, oh, okay, you've got all this. They'll actually find their titles based, Tokyo Pop, they'll find their titles based on the publisher. All of that is available. However you end up finding the individual titles, once you find a title, you simply click on an individual title, and you have the option of reading it right there or adding it to your own shelf. So where all of these shelves are marketing shelves that are driven, you have the ability of creating your own shelf. So when you check out a title, it shows up on your own shelf, and you've got all the graphics of everything that you're reading right here. Again, I believe, in my personal experience, my personal opinion, the app reading experience is better, but this is, a perfectly acceptable reading experience. If you have a title that you want to be able to read, all you do is you click on it. It will populate the title itself, gives you the additional information, kind of like the landing page. You've got the option right there to read now. So once you open it up, you get a full page graphic representation of the page. You have the ability to zoom in on it. You can go page by page, or you can jump to multiple pages. It will remember where you left off. So that's a really nice feature. So you don't have to try and remember, particularly for some of these graphic novels, they're massive. You don't have to remember where you left off. It will remember for you. It looks like I've got a little bit of a lag here in trying to bring up the page. So when it comes up, you do have the instructions. So if you're reading it online, you have the instructions of how to manipulate by the pages to remind you. You can get rid of it. And you can see a nice full page representation of Supergirl. When you click down at the bottom, you can see down here, you've got all of the pages attached to a scroll bar. So you have the ability of jumping, which probably is more relevant for maybe a multi-volume set where you're trying to jump to another story within the larger work. Can't imagine you're just going to try and jump to an individual page of text, because again, it will remember where you left off, so you don't need to do that. Super simple reading experience. When you're done reading it, just click out of it. And I got to get out of my controls of Zoom keep getting in the way. And you're back to your page. Very easy, super simple, wonderful interface. This again, just as the URL. I'm going to show you what the app looks like. Unfortunately, Zoom has done some sort of a update, those lovely updates, that no longer is giving me the ability to share my screen as a co-host. So I'm going to have to show it to you as a slide presentation, but I will show you what it looks like. But before I get into that, I'm going to show you some of the marketing, highlight some of the marketing you have available. But before I do that, any questions about anything that I've shown, you can unmute yourself or send it to me as a chat if there's any area you want me to go back and highlight. If not, I'm going to hop into the digital graphic content. Can you, Joanna, can you see my the digital content digital graphic
Yes,
content page. Okay, I
yes.
want to make sure I was sharing correctly. So this is information, again, RCLS had sent all of this out. This is a landing page actually on the BroadArt site. So this is library facing. This is for you. This is not for your patrons. You would not send your patrons to this page. This gives you just additional information that talks about, I do have a question that came in. How long can you check them out? Or do they stay? Oh, thank you so much for asking that. From the patron experience, they don't need to worry about the checkout period. Once they access the title, it goes into their collection. They have it in their collection until they want to delete it. From a circulation and library statistics standpoint, those titles are accessible to them in 7-day cycles. So what that means is when they check out a title, you immediately get the circulation statistic for that one checkout. Say they start reading it, say it's a longer one, or they go on vacation, they forget and they don't finish reading it. At day 8, if that's when they, oh wait, I never finished that, and they go to click it, check on it again, or they go to read it, they will be given a message that just says, do you want to continue reading this title? And of course, they'll just say yes, because they don't know why you're asking that. They're like, well, I clicked on it. Of course, I want to keep reading it. What that does is it verifies they are technically, quote unquote, checking it out again. So then you will get another checkout. So they may have something in their collection for months. You will get it every time they touch it to activate another 7-day checkout period. So from a user experience, they don't even know what's going on. They don't have to go back and find something. Nothing disappears if they, once it quote unquote ends the checkout period. They will always have it available. They just have to click on it and it'll pick up right where they left off. But the minute they do, you get another touch. When I get to the app, I'll actually show you there is a way to delete them also. So it doesn't, that's more of a housekeeping thing. But thank you so much for asking that question, because that is important to note. From their experience, they're not even going to know what's going on. But from your experience, you're going to want to have as many circulations as you can. So this, again, this page is library facing. So this is not something you send your patrons to, but there's some really good information here. In particular, it talks a little bit about how we've differentiated your 2 collections. So since your library does have a link to just the children's collection and one to the full collection, here's a subset of what is available in that children's collection. So that might be worth a perusal. You've got some general information about how can you use Comics Plus, just why do you have this in your library? You want circs, but it's more than just reading books with pretty pictures. It can be used for English language learning. It can be used to help build literacy. The important link that I wanted to show is when you're on this page, there we go. You get down to the very bottom. There's these 2 sections at the very bottom for resources and for posters. So the posters, these are free resources that you have available to you. So again, these links were made available to you from RCLS. These are posters that you can print out. You can customize them with your own information. You can make a QR code. You can put your library logo on there. What I recommend, if you do nothing else, what I recommend is doing the bookmarks. It seems anathema that you're using a physical bookmark to promote a digital product, but my background, I spent 15 years with recorded books, and out of sheer, what goes around comes around. Recorded Books actually had a partnership with Comics Plus years ago, before they developed the app, before the product built to the product it is now. To be perfectly honest, I was put on the team of determining whether BroadArt would partner with Comics Plus, and I was put on that team specifically because I was saying no, because it wasn't a good product once upon a time. I'm completely converted. It's a wonderful product. They fixed all the issues that we had back in the day. But what was working when we promoted it were these physical bookmarks promoting digital. You put them in the physical comic books. Don't leave them at the counter. Don't put them at the reference. Oh, you can do that too. But have your shelvers put these bookmarks within your physical product. So as your patrons are coming in and checking out the books, they will this will land in their lap and say, oh, I didn't know there was a digital version of this. And there will be so much more content available to them through the digital. So these bookmarks are a great tool to promote. If you personally are not familiar with comic books, graphic novels, manga, the difference between all of those, there is all kinds of tools that they have built up. And just a little interesting tidbit about Comics Plus, because yes, there was a relationship with Recorded Books, but they continue to build primarily through the school market. So they've done a lot of educational programs. They've done a lot of research. They've done a lot of teaching guides that talk about how to use graphic novels in a children's environment. So for the children's librarians, there's going to be some great information in here that you might be able to use even to build. There's programming resources. There are things that you might get some ideas of what you can do, whether it's to promote Comics Plus or just promote graphic novels that you already have in your collection. There's some great information in here because they've been building these resources for years, much longer than BroadArt's partnership with them. So all of this is available on this one page. If you can't find the link, just go to the BroadArt website. And when you go to BroadArt Books into library services, you see all of our other collection development services here. One of them is graphic novels. We do still obviously offer printed graphic novels. You know, we are a printed material distributor, but then you have the option for digital graphic novels, and that's what gets you to the page to this page. So it's very easy to find in case you can't find the reference that RCLS had sent out. So with all of that shared, I'm going to stop sharing that because now I want to share the screenshots of what the app looks like. So again, my apologies. This is something we discovered when we did the demo yesterday, that suddenly this latest Zoom update does not allow me to share my individual iPhone. So all I did was I just grabbed some screenshots of my actual phone to show you what your patron experience will be. So right off the bat, this is what the logo looks like. So when they search for Comics Plus, if they do whatever they end up doing, what they will actually download onto their phone will be a Library Pass app. So right off the bat, that is probably the only major hurdle you will need to deal with. Most of the people who are going to be attracted by this are young enough. They're not going to be phased by that at all. But some people will be like, wait, I tried to get this app and it gave me something else, and they're going to think we're spamming them or something horrible is happening. Just let them know, no, that's the way it's supposed to be. And like I said, a lot of that marketing materials did use the term Library Pass to keep them from getting confused in that process. When you click on the app, once it's installed, you get an experience that's very similar to what I showed you on the URL. The first screen is this one here over on the left. You get the same login, or actually you get this one here in the middle. I put them in the wrong order. You have to find your system. As I said, that wayward third option does not appear in the app. So it's just giving you the option for the children's or the full. Once you pick one of those, you get the same option to enter your library card and your PIN number. And then once you do that, you get a page that gives you the option to get started. A couple promotional pages you can scroll through, but basically you just go straight into Comics Plus. Once you do, this screen here on the left is the screen that you land on. So you have what looks very similar to what I was showing you online. You've got the banners, and these scroll automatically, just like they do online. You have the different shelves, just like we did online. These you manually can scroll back and forth. You can see in the upper left-hand corner, just like anyone who's familiar with apps will know, that is the menu. So when you click on that, you get the second screen, and that gives you the same that you had on the line: featured, popular, just added, category, publishers. You have the exact same option. So when you click on something like popular, you get exactly what you got on the URL. You suddenly have access to the most popular titles from across the system. So they all work very similarly. Once you pick a title that you actually want to access, when you first pick the title, you get a page that looks like this here on the left. It's going to show the name, an image of the title with two options: download now or stream now. Now, this might change based, from what I understand, you cover a fairly broad geographic region. Some areas may have better internet coverage, high speed, all things like that. If you're streaming, it's literally you're using your data to read without downloading anything to your phone. It's fine if you have really good coverage. It's going to use up a lot of your data because it's just like making a phone call or something like that, or watching a live video. What's probably more likely is people will want to download it. Either one are available. When you choose to download, that's what's going to add something to your shelf. So if you stream something, it's fine, but it's not going to keep track of where you left off. And it's not actually going to show that you've actually read any of it because it's not actually activating it into your onto your quote unquote your shelf. So what I'm showing is when you go ahead and do a download, you click on the download now, it'll go through the process. Once it is done, this page, the center screen, is the My Shelf section. So it's called My Comics. You can see at the very bottom, this little oval down at the bottom, featured, popular, My Shelf and settings. That's at the very bottom, the app. That's all part of the app. That doesn't change no matter what screen you're on. So I clicked on My Shelf. These are all the titles that I have. It's in order by the most recently touched. So since Supergirl is the one I was just putting in, there you go. Looks like a couple of questions came in the chat. When you download a title, that is counting it as a checkout. If you stream the title, it does not count as checkout. So those are good questions, because the streaming the title is not. I think if you stream more than 10% of it, then it does register, because that's what we pay a royalty against. So I think it does count at that point. But if you just stream to see what it looks like, the streaming would not count as a checkout. It's just the download. So you've got the My Page, then you click on any one of these. Actually, you see this Claire Braids May's Tail. Why is that hard to say? Claire Braids May's Tail. There's this bar down at the bottom. So that is indicating that I'm actually in the process of reading this fascinating tale about a girl and her horse, and I'm partway through it. You can see I have not started reading Supergirl, so that bar does not exist on that title. When I go to click on that title, I get what looks like the same page I had originally, but now you can see download now has been changed to read now. So then that gives you the opportunity to actually read. The other thing, you can see I kind of like cheated up a little bit, because at the very bottom, there's a minus sign with the word remove. This is how you actually take a title out of your collection once you're done reading it. There's no requirement to do so. It doesn't do any harm other than it's taking up space. So again, this is really more of a case the younger audiences are going to know there's a housekeeping issue. You got to clear up your space. That's how you do it. You can literally click on the minus and it'll take it away. Super simple, no issues, and has no impact on the statistics for the library. So that's really more of a housekeeping thing, case by case. Once you click on it to read now, you will get, there we go. You get a full screen image. So this is on my iPhone. So there's a little bit of dead space at the top and at the bottom. If your screen is proportioned differently, like in an iPad, this is beautiful on an iPad, because these images basically take up the entire page. So it's just a great reading experience. I don't even need my cheaters. If it's a smaller experience on your phone, I didn't actually think to grab a screenshot of it, but you can zoom in just like you can on anything on your phone. You can zoom in. So if there's panels that you want to read, like these are fairly large, but say you had a panel, the little speech bubbles, you can expand them. So it's super simple to manipulate your way through the page. And then you just click, you actually can flip it. It looks like you're flipping a page of a magazine. You flip and it kind of has a little graphic representation that the page is turning. And if you're watching, reading a manga, it actually flips in a reverse, which blew my mind the first time because I'm not a manga reader. But it works exactly a way a manga reader would expect. It starts at the quote unquote the end, and then I go back. And yes, you can do this. It's actually a little bit more obvious to do it on the desktop version. You can remove it from the desktop as well. What made it odd in this case is it's like you can see on the bottom, you can see there's a tiny little plus sign here, but this oval is fixed. So you have to scroll up. So it's not as obvious simply on the app, because if the description is too long, the action button falls below the fold. You don't see it. So that's why I wanted to highlight it here on the desktop. It's much more obvious. You click it just like you would anything else to delete it. So good question. And that is it. That was all I was going to show on the app. I will show, for those of you who are looking, this is the app on my phone. So you can scroll, you can look at your shelf. It's just because of the angle, it's not as easy to show holding my phone. That's what I had to do yesterday, and it was really kind of clunky. So I made that the screen presentation, so you at least could see the screenshots. It is a super user-friendly experience. The biggest difference, and again, this is BroadArt's first foray into a digital world. So, BroadArt's been around for over 80 years, and this is the first time we've done anything digital. So this is kind of a big deal. Recorded books, we carry dozens of these types of products. And I can speak from experience, this one works a little bit differently in the sense that because the target audience tends to skew lower, it's a generalization, there's always going to be exceptions, but this is not the case of digital magazines, digital audiobooks, ebooks, where you might have maybe an older patron base who is less familiar with the technology that you have to walk them through every part of the process. This is going to be an audience that they're used to downloading, adding, and deleting apps all the time. They're going to try it out, and it is slick. It is super easy to use. And if they are heavy duty comic book, and again, we're really pushing the manga because we've got some unique content out there. Content that, again, is not even available in print here in the United States. They're going to have access to stuff they didn't even know about. They are going to love it. Looks like another chat came in. Okay, so the question is, can a parent toggle back and forth between children's and full? Unfortunately, no. So what you have to do is, if you remember the login process, the first thing you're choosing is whether you're in the children's or the full. So toggle you can't do, but you can log out and then just go back to the first one and then choose the other one. You're not permanently stuck within one, but you can't be, oh, I'm a parent, I want to be able to see the adult stuff too. You can't do that, unfortunately. They played around with the idea of using parental controls on the app, and they had some really rudimentary success with that. That would allow a parent to just, okay, they're going to give their child an iPad, and they're going to have like pre-selected turn off the adult content. The problem was, again, most kids, even young kids, are sophisticated enough. They know how to change settings, and it could change back. There was no way to lock it. So one of the upgrades that actually, even that part got lost. So they're looking to do something more at the unit level. For now, what we've done is we've separated it so that at least if someone is truly concerned about the child having access to adult content, they will just give them access to the children's section, and then there's no way to inadvertently toggle over to the adult. So the question is, could you sign up with a kids card for the kids version? That is a possibility in theory, but not with the way your system is set up, because we had to do something that worked for the entire system. We have had, again, some rudimentary success in being able to do that. But even a couple of the libraries that I personally have handled that set it up that way, it wasn't perfect, because it was something that you would then have to administer. And what they were discovering is that some of the children had access to adult library cards for some reason. So the controls they thought were in place suddenly weren't in place. So there is an authentication that would allow that to happen, but it would have to happen for your entire 47 system. And that's not getting into the business side of things, but that's not the way it was priced, because that does work differently. So at this point, I'm going to say no. But conceptually, if that's something that becomes an issue, and being 100% honest, it really has not been that much of an issue. We've had some libraries that signed up just for the full content. That is how we typically sell it, where you just get access to everything. We've definitely had libraries step in and say, you know what, we're not cool with the idea that our kids have such easy access to all of it. Well, here you go. And that's actually how this got this kind of option developed. Like, well, if you want to put this URL on your landing page, then in the kids landing page, you can do that. And we have some libraries that for the entire library, they only offer the children's content. We don't like that, because that's really restrictive. But you got to do what you got to do. So at this point, that's what we split up, and hopefully that will work for you. And I'm sure we'll be in touch with Joanna, as she gave some statistics yesterday that even with almost no promotion, you guys just turned this on last week. And I think, what was it, Joanna? You already had over 150 checkouts. So, if people are already finding this, even with minimal promotion. So congratulations on that. And then you'll just, as it gets bigger, you'll hear the feedback. And if there's an issue, we'll work with everything that we can. There we go. Yesterday's 150, today's 165. Can a patron suggest material to be added if it's not available? They can suggest it, but it won't do any good. And I don't mean to be facetious, but we're doing our best to add as much content as we can. There are two major issues that get in the way. We do not have Marvel or DC. I mentioned that earlier yesterday. I forgot to mention it here. We don't have them because of the model. If you can imagine how much a model would cost to give truly unlimited simultaneous access to Marvel and DC, it would be cost prohibitive. There are models that say it's unlimited simultaneous access. The difference with that model, again, that's kind of getting into the business side of things, ours is truly unlimited because we don't charge you for those checkouts. Others will say, well, we don't make anyone put it on hold, but every time it gets checked out, you pay $3.99 or $2.99 or $4.99, whatever the price is. So in effect, it's limiting because you're going to run out of money. So we are trying to get as many publishers as we can. Some publishers don't want to work with us because they don't like that model. They think they can make more money in a model where they get money every time it gets checked out. And they are not wrong. Those are not publishers that we can work with. So there are going to be, I think My Little Pony is actually in our collection. Don't hold me to that, but I want to say I've stumbled on a My Little Pony title. So there will be things like that do pop up. But if they say, oh, I wish you had this, that's just, you need to know enough about the business practices to just say, hey, we could put a suggestion in. I'm more than happy to take a suggestion, but I will say it will pretty much fall on deaf ears because we know who the publishers are and we're asking all of them. Some of those they just don't want to play in our sandbox, and there's nothing we can do about that. So, it's weird because we do have some content, like I showed you, Supergirl, we had Green Lantern. I'm like, wait a minute, aren't those DC? I guess they're licensed to other publishers. So actually, might be able to see it on my screen. Not sure if it lists who the publisher is. Yeah, I mean, when it does link to, there's like we have DC Super Pets. It's like a subcategory of DC. So like all of the ones we've got a bunch of Batman, but they're all for the younger audience. So I think it's like a subset that I don't specifically know. So like you can find some of that. You're just not going to find the mainstream Superman, Batman, DC, all those types of things. It seems to be DC Super Pets. That sounds fun, but that's not the mainstream collection. So yeah, it gets a little confusing as we get into publishers, but those are the big ones. We're going to be missing a lot of names that people know and say, well, why don't you have these? It is fundamental. It's all about money. And we hate to admit it, but you all know that how many arguments has been going on in the industry for years over how many times you can circulate an ebook. Well, you can circulate it forever because it's an ebook, but you can't because that's not the way it's sold to you. It all changes over time. So that's where we stand right now. Okay. Still went over, apologize, but hopefully this was good information. Again, I think all the links, Joanna had already sent them out. This is being recorded, so it'll refer to some of those as well. But if you have any questions here, let me know. If you think of them later, send them through Joanna. She can forward them off to me. I'm happy to help. But biggest thing, I encourage you to just go ahead, log in yourself. Just start point and click. You can't do anything wrong. You can't break it. And you're going to find how user-friendly it is. And it'll make you feel much more comfortable being able to promote this. It's not going to be labor intensive. It's not going to take up a lot of your staff time. There's not going to be any real training involved. It's just a great service to have. And it's a niche, but you're going to find you've got patrons that are in that niche, and they're going to love the fact that you do not cap how many titles they can check out. So they're going to have a blast with it. So thank you so much for your time. Thanks, Joanna.
Thank you so much, Patrick. And just a quick reminder, if anyone is playing around and you have more questions, there will be another training on October 20th. So you have plenty of time to explore. And if any patrons have questions that you'd like to bring back to that training, you are more than welcome to. I hope everyone enjoys the rest of your day.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.